Assalamu alaikum. Good, how are you? Alhamdulillah.
Good to see you.
Good to see you. Alhamdulillah. Good to see you.
All is well? Family is good?
Very good, mashallah. Alhamdulillah, shukrillah. Should I start?
I think we should start, yes.
Okay. So,
Yeah, we're good.
no? Just do what? So if we can get everybody, there's some people out there, we're going to get started in a few seconds, inshallah. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. In the name of God, the most gracious, the most merciful. Welcome to everybody who's come today to the Islamic Center of Inland Empire. We welcome you. We are moved to have this heartfelt support from our community. Unfortunately, it's kind of a bittersweet moment, right? We have everybody together here today, but under some unfortunate circumstances. So we hope that one day we can come together again under better and happier circumstances. But this is an important night nonetheless for us to come together. The tragedy that we witnessed in New Zealand, in Christchurch, it was a tragedy not just for the Muslim community, not just for the Muslims. This is a tragedy for all people. It was a tragedy for all humanity, really. That in a place of worship, in a sacred space, that you can have somebody take the lives of innocent people, men, women, children, in the most really just the most susceptible and the most just completely vulnerable situation, really. And so we feel the pain of the victims. We feel the pain of the families. It affects everybody, right? We may, compartmentalize some of the pain that people feel, but really, in essence, as one human family, it affects all of us. Events around the world ricochet and they reverberate, and in the end, we're all affected by it. So it's not just a solidarity for a program to show our solidarity here in the Inland Empire. This is really a reflection of a global solidarity. There were people from all different parts of the world that were affected by this event, people that were killed from 30 or more countries. And we've seen the same type of events unfortunately in other communities as well. So it's not something that's unique to one group, one place. We saw it in Pittsburgh, unfortunately, in the synagogue back in October. Also a place of worship, people that are vulnerable, elderly people killed in that situation. We saw the same in a church in South Carolina, in Charleston, where again, place of worship. So this is unfortunately this is a human disease that affects and plagues our world, and we have to continue to combat it. We have to continue to resist it. We have to continue to educate ourselves, to bring our communities together so that we can learn from one another. And there is a verse in the Quran, the holy book of Muslims, where God says, "O mankind, indeed we have created you from a male and a female and made you peoples and tribes that you may know one another. Indeed, the most noble of you in the sight of God is the most righteous of you. Indeed, God is knowing and well acquainted. So really our gathering today is an affirmation of all of our religious traditions. All of our religious traditions teach the same message in essence: humanity, brotherhood, sisterhood. And to see suffering in any one of our brothers and sisters' communities, it pains all of us because we are one body. And regardless of all of the forces that are trying to divide us, it's important that we continue again and again to come together to resist this type of divisive actions. We see in New Zealand an example, and I wanted to mention that because I think it's important. The example of Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern, who really has stepped up and embodied compassion, love, and embracing these various communities there. And it's an example I think that we can learn from in our various countries, in our various communities, in our cities, that that we can be all embracing, that we do not need to be divisive, that we can love one another regardless of the differences between us. And I wanted to leave with one anecdote or one situation that occurred on the day of the shooting, and that was I was actually gonna greet everybody with this particular statement, which was "Hello, brother." And "Hello, brother" was something that was said by one of the first victims at the Al Noor Masjid, the Al Noor Mosque. So you can only imagine what that situation might have looked like. There's a guy fully armed in military fatigues, walks up to the front of the masjid, to the front of the mosque. The first guy he sees, and this guy probably sees this guy in his fully armed gear, and what does he say to him? He says, "Hello, brother, welcome." It wasn't, "What are you doing here? Who are you? What's going on?" It was a sense of humanity. He saw him as a human being first. And so I think that is a reflection of who we should be and who we are, and it reflects the message of our Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, that he welcomed all people, he dealt with people as human beings. And there's a very famous story of our Prophet, peace be upon him, when he saw a funerary group that was going to the grave. It was a Jewish man, and the Prophet stood up in honor of him. And his companions asked him why, he's of a different faith. Why would you do this? And he answered to them, "Isn't it a soul?" Right? He responded to them, teaching them that all humanity is sacred, that we recognize each other's humanity. So now with that, we want to, allow some of our esteemed guests here tonight to say a few words. We have the Honorable Mayor of Rancho Cucamonga, Dennis Michael, who's going to say a few words. Rabbi Zari Sussman, Pastor Stephanie Lape, from Pete Aguilar's office. We have Boris Medzibovsky. Sorry if I mispronounced the name. Dr. Emmett Sobo from the Shura Council, and we'll allow people from our community here, if they want to share any words, they'll be welcome to do that as well. So we wanted to start with a recitation of some verses from the Quran by Brother Omar Irfan, please.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. يا أيها الذين آمنوا استعينوا بالصبر والصلاة إن الله مع الصابرين ولا تقولوا لمن يقتل في سبيل الله أموات بل أحياء ولكن لا تشعرون ولنبلونكم بشيء من الخوف والجوع ونقص من الأموال والأنفس والثمرات وبشر الصابرين الذين إذا أصابتهم مصيبة قالوا إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون أولئك عليهم صلوات من ربهم ورحمة وأولئك هم المهتدون صدق الله العظيم. I'm just going to go ahead and give the translation of the verses. And when I thought of the verses that I was going to recite today, I truly wanted verses from the Quran that would kind of embody the feeling that we all had together as we heard about the shootings in New Zealand. And so I felt like these verses from the second chapter of the Quran, starting from verse 153, truly embodied it, and I'll translate it right now. O you who have believed, seek help through patience and prayer. Indeed, Allah is with those that are patient. And do not say about those that are killed in the way of God or in the way of Allah, they are dead. Rather, they are alive, but you perceive it not. And we will surely test you with something of fear and hunger and a loss of wealth and lives and fruits, but give good tidings to those that are patient, who, when disaster strikes them, they say, indeed we belong to Allah, and indeed to Him we will return. Those are the ones upon whom are blessings from their Lord and mercy, and it is those who are rightly guided. Thank you so much. That wasn't part of it.
Thank you, Omar. So I wanted to invite the Honorable Mayor of Rancho Cucamonga, Dennis Michael, to say a few words.
I'll try not to make it too noisy. Well, first of all, on behalf of our entire city, on behalf of every one of our city council persons on this city, I want to thank you. It's truly a privilege to be with each and every one of you this evening. It truly is something that's very near and dear to my heart. I've lived in this city my entire lifetime. And back when I went to school at Alta Loma High School or Alta Loma Elementary School, pretty much the cultures were Hispanic and Caucasian. And today this city has grown to be multiple cultures, multiple religions, and this particular site is just another evidence of why we as a city, and me personally, believes very strongly in inclusiveness. Regardless of the ethnicity, regardless of the religious beliefs, we welcome everyone in this community. You know, and I look back, tragically I look back, whether it's in San Bernardino, whether it's in a school, whether it's in Las Vegas, whether it's in New Zealand, we all need to be better in taking care of one another and being better, loving, patience, and kindness that we all need to really focus on in our life. You know, I heard about Charleston. I'm going there in a few weeks. You just see this all over the world, and it's not necessary. And it doesn't matter where it happens or how it happens, it affects everybody, because you start feeling a sense of, am I going to be safe? Am I going to be in a place of safety? And I believe Rancho Cucamonga is truly a place of safety, and we're going to make sure that that continues to be that way for each and every one of you. I'm always reminded about the word community. Rancho Cucamonga is a community, and I gave this presentation a few years, three years ago at a State of the City address. And the last 5 letters of community is unity. And that's what we really need to focus on. We need to unify ourselves as human beings that were placed on this earth by the God, whatever God we believe in. We're all here for one purpose, and that's to get along. And I'm so sorry for your tragedy that you're suffered from in New Zealand. And let's just pray and continue to pray. And I can't, the recitation earlier, I just love that. And I love the English version of it, because otherwise I wouldn't have understood it. But I truly believe, you know, that Christ Church, I visited there many years ago, several years ago anyway, a beautiful community, and to have what happened there is just unconscionable for me personally. And so I want to thank you all for coming together as a church, as a mosque, coming together to raise awareness about the pain that we all suffer. Your fellow man, fellow women that suffered losses in that country, it affects all of us. No different than it affected everybody, no matter what tragedy we've seen in this nation or what tragedy we've seen in the world, whether it's in France or whether it's in England, it all affects all of us, because we are, quite honestly for me, I am tired of seeing it. And so I learned something the other day about how these things might happen. And I was with a physician who was giving a presentation. He called it ACE, Adverse Childhood Experiences. And I asked a question of him when he was done with his presentation. I said, so what does your studies show on when people create these heinous acts? How many of them are victims of adverse childhood experiences? And he said, probably 99% of them. So what we need to do as a country and as a world, we need to try to start identifying youth in their younger years that are experiencing things that aren't pleasant in their schools or in their homes, and try to do our best job that we possibly can do to correct the behavior, to correct the problems, and to make sure that when our youth are growing up, that they're growing up in a wholesome, very, very loving environment. And certainly this mosque does that each and every day when you come together. And I love your traditions. I was in the Blue Mosque in Istanbul several years ago, and I forgot tonight to remove my shoes. And then I forgot to sit with the ladies instead of sitting with you gentlemen. So I apologize for that. I will never do that again. I love the traditions. I love everything about all of you that are here tonight. And I just thank you, and I wish God's blessing upon each and every one of you, and everything that you're going to do this evening to raise the awareness for everyone to do a better job of living a loving, wholesome life. So thank you so much for allowing me to be here tonight. I'd love to stay for the rest of the presentations, but I have a grandchild that's got a birthday going on in Redlands, so I'm going to go catch the last part of that. But God bless all of you. Thank you so much for allowing me to be here once again. I'm going to walk away with this is what I'm going to do. I'm sorry.
No, not at all. Good evening, everyone. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you so much for coming out and taking the time out of your busy Fridays. Mayor Michael, if you can just hold on for 1 second, please. Thank you. We won't take you from your grandson. Thank you. On behalf of the Board of Directors of the Islamic Center of the Inland Empire, we'd like to welcome everyone. Thank you for making the effort to show the world that there is good and that evil will not prevail. In coming together tonight, I hope you'll join with me in acknowledging Mayor Michael's recent loss. I understand you lost your mother, and we lost my mother-in-law not too long ago, and I understand, as my husband will echo, and everyone here that has lost a loved one, it does not make it any easier that you're an adult with a grandchild. So we just wanted to give you something as a token from the entire interfaith community. So,
thank you.
Yes,
so
you're welcome. So sorry for your loss.
I can't leave here without sharing just a couple of comments about my mother. 94 years of age, walked a mile every single day, that weather permitted, was as vivacious as anybody I have ever met in my life, not because it was my mother, but because of just who she was. She was a woman of love. She never had a nasty word to say about anyone. And so fortunately, I was raised that way, and I hope that the rest of my life I can more emulate her behavior, because I was with her that morning and she talked about all the things she was doing that day, and unfortunately she took a fall in her kitchen from probably looking up and fainted and hit her head and had a catastrophic brain hemorrhage, and she's now with the Lord and with my father, and so I'm happy about that. But thank you, wherever you all are. Thank you. Thank you for this. It means so much to me, and I will make sure that I share it with my entire family. God bless you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Dennis. I wanted to call Rabbi Zari Sussman. And Rabbi Zari, her community had delivered a very nice set of flowers to our community in remembrance for this tragedy. So thank you for that. I was going to let you say a few words.
Wow. Thank you so much for inviting myself and members of my community into your home. After watching the news this week, I am especially grateful that we, sitting in Southern California in the Inland Empire, can gather face to face as humans and friends. Many of us are minority members of the community, and we share common experiences. Each one of us carries a point of God's light. Yet many of us have become disconnected from it. Our divine light becomes hidden through life, through anxieties, worries, disappointments and fears, heartbreaks and failures. My teacher, Rabbi Feinstein, taught a story. At the end of the 19th century, more than 5 million Jews lived under the Tsar of Russia. The Tsar hated the Jews. He issued an order to kidnap all Jewish boys age 8 or over, and forced them to serve in the army for 10 years. Thousands of Jewish boys were stolen from their parents and sent to war. In the army of the Tsar, the Jewish boys forgot who they were and where they came from. One time, an elderly Jewish couple in a tiny Russian village was forced by the government to take in a soldier who was marching with the troops throughout the countryside. The couple moved out of the bedroom, and the young man, all gruff and glares, moved in with his pack and his rifle and his bedroll. He lay on the bed, ramrod straight, as if he was standing on attention, his boots still laced up, and he's staring at the ceiling in silence. Every question, every invitation to conversation was met with a no, yeah. It was Friday night, the Jewish Sabbath. The couple prepared to sit down for Shabbat dinner. The soldier took his place at the table. He glared at them with contempt. Only now the old couple could see how young the boy was. As the old woman kindled the Shabbat candles, she covered her eyes and recited a blessing. His eyes grew softer, and he stared at her with wonder. The words were strange to him, but the scene was familiar. In some way, he recognized the rhythm and the melody of the prayer. As he listened, the old man chanted the Kiddush, the blessing over the wine, and the Motzi, the blessing over the bread. Once again, the prayers were strange, yet familiar. He knew none of the words, but the melody, he knew it from somewhere, from some time. The soldier quickly devoured the hunk of challah, our bread, before him, and speaking for the first time, he asked for more. His voice was not one of a hardened soldier, but that of a boy scared and lost in the world. His face was a picture of bewilderment. Something about this picture, the sight of the candles, the melody of the prayers, the taste of the challah, it was familiar. It touched him in a very deep and mysterious way. But how? How could it be? He had never been here before. He had never met these people. And he had never visited this village. How could it possibly be familiar? Suddenly, the young man arose from his seat at the table and beckoned for the old man to follow him back into the bedroom. He pulled his heavy pack from the floor onto the bed and began to pull things out, his uniform, his equipment, his ammunition, until finally, at the very bottom, he pulled a small velvet bag tied with a drawstring. "Can you tell me what this is?" he asked the old man, the soldier's eyes now gentle and imploring. The old man took the bag, trembling fingers, and loosened the string. Inside was a child's tallis, a child's prayer shawl, tiny tefillin, along with a small book of Hebrew prayers. "Where did you get this?" he asked. The soldier answered, "I've always had them. I don't remember when." The old man opened the prayer book and read the flyleaf, the inscription on top in our prayer books, and his eyes filled with tears. "To our son Yosele, taken from us as a boy. Should you ever see your bar mitzvah, your 13th birthday, know that you are a Jew. Be proud. I know that wherever you are, your mama and your papa always love you." The old man closed the book, turned to the soldier, and embraced him. The young soldier tried to fight back the tears, but he was unsuccessful. His tears and the tears of the old man mingled as the old man whispered into his ear, "Welcome home, Yosele. Welcome home." As we go through life, each one of us carries baggage. We fill our knapsacks with hopes and dreams and experiences and failures. For many of us, our divine spark, our soul, becomes covered and very difficult to find. The goal of ritual and the goal of prayer is to reconnect us with that divine light. Communal spaces like the one here, like the one in my Temple Shalom, and the one in Christ Church, are places where we come together and we connect and elevate our lights in praise of something bigger than ourselves. Prayer spaces are meant to be safe spaces, to shine with holiness, places where we gather and act as our best selves. It pained me deeply to read about the shooting in Christ Church. Sometimes there is tension between our communities, but at the end of the day, we are all children of the same Heavenly Father. We are all carrying the same prayer bags, each gifted with the same holy light. Please know that my community and myself stand with you against the evils of racism and xenophobia, and join you against this battle of evil. Thank you, and Shabbat Shalom.
Thank you, Rabbi. We are actually going to stop for a few minutes to take a break for the evening prayer. So for those of you who are not aware, the Muslims pray a ritual prayer 5 times a day. And there's a prayer, one of the prayers, the 4th prayer is right after sunset. It's called the Maghrib prayer. And so the way the prayer works is there's an imam who will lead the congregation in the prayer. It consists of a recitation from the verses of the Quran. You'll see bowing and then prostrating, touching the head to the ground. So you're welcome to observe the prayer as well, and if anybody would like to participate, that's completely okay as well if you'd like to do that. I think we will actually break for that now, inshallah, and somebody will give the call to prayer. The call to prayer is a traditional thing that's done, calling the faithful to the prayer, calling to God, praising God, and so inshallah we'll have the brother give the prayer to call.
الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله خلاص هنغير بقى تعال عليا على شويه can you go back a little bit guys احنا كده صح ولا كده ها نمشي ازاي خلاص على ده يعني لا اتفضل الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله
If any of the guests is joining us for the prayer, simply just follow the movements of the person next to you. For the rest, it will be done within a few minutes. استوي الصلاة, straighten your line. الله أكبر. تبارك اسمك تعالى جدك. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. إذا جاء نصر الله والفتح ورأيت الناس يدخلون في دين الله أفواجا فسبح بحمد ربك واستغفره إنه كان توابا. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. استغفر الله.
Welcome back, everybody. So we're going to continue with our program. Our next guest, and by the way, thank you everybody for your patience. Thank you for coming again as guests. I just wanted to mention something. In our tradition, when we have guests, it's considered a gift from God. So it's a real honor for the host to have guests. So thank you for honoring us by coming here tonight. So our next guest is Pastor Stephanie Lape from the Cross and Crown Lutheran Church. Okay. Pastor Stephanie's community, her congregation had sent over a set of cards with their sympathies, and it was very, very touching. They're out there if anybody wants to look at them on the counter. Thank you.
Thank you. It's also a gift from God that I get to be here. Thank you so much for having me. Whoop, if I can get this on. I just want to start off by saying that I'm just so very sorry. I'm so sorry about what happened in Christchurch. I'm sorry for the worldwide Muslims who, are affected by this with fear and trepidation that you don't deserve, you don't need. I'm sorry for humanity that all of us have to endure such evil and such destruction in the world. None of us deserve this. We just deserve goodwill like tonight. We deserve times to love one another. I'm just so deeply sorry. I want to tell you a little bit of a story, something that I went through the other day. So a couple of days after this shooting in Christchurch, I was in a store, the store Dollar Tree, actually getting cards to send to here. And there was a Muslim woman in line ahead of me. And so I thought, well, I'll just give her an extension of my sympathies. Of course, she doesn't, live in New Zealand or anything, but she's of the same demographic of people who were attacked. And so I got in that line where she was, and I said to her, "Excuse me, are you Muslim?" And I figured she was, but you got to say something to break the ice and start a conversation. And she turned around and she looked actually a little nervous. And she said, "Yes, I'm Muslim." And I said, I'm Christian. And I just want to tell you how sorry I am that Muslims experience this tragedy in New Zealand, and that Muslims everywhere are probably afraid and grieving right now. And I'm just so very sorry. And she said, "Wow, thank you. I really appreciate that." And I said, "I just wish that there was something more that I could do." That's all we said. And then she was trying to buy, sorry, I'm just not used to this. It's not my tradition. She was trying to buy a couple of things. She only had 2 items. And so there we were at the Dollar Tree. So you could pretty much figure out how much these cost. And she was using her debit card, and the cashier was having a difficult time with the card. And so they were struggling with this card. And I just said, "Would you mind if I purchased those for you?" I mean, lame thing, it's not going to make anything better, but it's just symbolic, right? And she looked again surprised, but at that moment the card went through and she was fine and she purchased her items. And she said to me, "I wish more people were like you." And she fell into my arms in an embrace. And I said, "I just keep you in my prayers, sister." So she left. That was the extent of our exchange. And so, as I often do because I like to write, I went home and put this right on Facebook. Just like an example of how to talk to people. And the response on Facebook was, "Oh, Pastor Stephanie, that's amazing. That's incredible. You're so awesome. That's so great." And I thought, no. That's not the response that I wanted. It's not amazing. It's talking to a person in line at a store. It's not that big of a deal. Can we please stop thinking that that's a big deal? Because if we think it's a big deal, then we're not going to do it. It was nothing. I mean, what did it cost me? A little bit of time, maybe a little bit of awkwardness, breaking the ice. Could have cost a max of $2 to pay for those items. It's not a big deal. I'm a Jesus follower. Y'all know that. If you're a Christian, that's what you do. And I know Muslims in the room, you love Jesus too. You consider him a great prophet. And so we're alike in that way. You understand. And Jesus did not just love people that had the same labels as he did. In fact, he often worked to turn upside down a system of supremacy in his day. If there was any kind of racial supremacy, if there was any kind of religious bigotry, Any kind of fear of the outsider or the stranger? Those outsiders, those strangers, those people who didn't share his label, those were exactly the ones he reached out to and he befriended and he loved and he showed compassion toward. And the only people that he really railed against and just put them in their place were people that were really into the who's in and who's out kind of mentality. Trying to act like they were superior to others, that they had God's special love and that nobody else had it, that they were better than other people. Jesus said, don't you even treat people like this. So it seems to me blatantly obvious that if Christians are going to be Jesus followers, they're going to be people who reach outside of their own system, whatever the labels happen to be. If it's a religious label, an ethnic label, any kind of identity, it's easy for me to hang out with Lutheran Christians who are just like me. That's easy. Anybody can do that. That's not a big deal. But it just takes an inch more discomfort to say hi across any kind of divide. It's not that amazing. It's normal. So I started thinking, why are people saying that this is so amazing? And then I had this realization of my own life. In my own life, growing up, I didn't know anybody that wore a hijab, ever. I didn't know one Muslim person. I didn't know a Hindu or a Buddhist. I'm not even sure I knew a Jewish person. I just knew people that were a lot like me. And so when you don't know anybody else than who you are, then you can easily be afraid of people who look different, think different, worship a little differently. But I got really interested in religion, and so in college I majored in comparative religions, religious studies, and then I went on to teach comparative religions. And so I would meet occasionally, when I was 19, 20, in my early 20s, I would meet Muslims for the first time. And I had professors take me to field trips to mosques and get tours of places. And I went to Hindu temples and Buddhist temples and Jewish synagogues, and I got to have this gift of being introduced to people that were a little bit different. And then later on, I became a professor of comparative religions, and so I then took my students to mosques and other places. And I have to tell you that without exception, every single Muslim, male and female, that I have ever met in my whole life has been nothing but gracious, kind, compassionate, giving, serving, treated me like I was a child of God just like they were. I have felt no ounce from a Muslim ever of resentment, rejection, judgment, nothing like that at all. So that's why it was easy for me to talk to that person in the grocery store, because of people that were Muslim who gave me that kind of compassion. It's easy to pass on what's been given to you. So I just want to encourage all of you to remember the power of education, to remember the power of relationship. And please, this is my challenge to any of my congregation in this room and anybody else. Don't you dare think that what happened in Christ Church was the end of the story. Do not let that win. There's so much more goodwill in this world than there is evil. The story's not done yet. And every act of compassion, a small one, like you teaching us how to put on the hijab for the first time, thank you. Small acts of compassion, large acts of compassion, it all adds up, it all matters. We are all one human family, brothers and sisters in this one family. Can we please get past these labels? I mean, love who you are, love your tradition, love your practice, yes. But also, get past the labels that would divide and that would create fear and animosity. We are all children of the one God. Let's love one another, educate one another, and more than anything else, have a relationship with one another. Say hi in the grocery store, at Dollar Tree. And let's show the world that loving each other is expected. It's just being a good neighbor. It's nothing radical and revolutionary. It's really not a big deal. Thank you so much for the honor of inviting me to speak here. What a gift. Thank you so much for coming together in this kind of love and solidarity and peace. And let's create a better ending of the story than what we've heard so far. Thanks.
Thank you, Pastor Stephanie. Also, I wanted to mention the Rabbi Zari and her people from her congregation. They had to leave early because it's actually their Shabbat. It's their Sabbath evening begins at sunset, so they had to leave. So it was very kind of them to come right before their own Sabbath time. I wanted to invite Congressman Pete Aguilar's Chief of Staff, Boris Medzibovsky. I'm sorry if I mispronounced your name. Okay, good.
Thank you. How does this work? Okay. Sorry, folks. Hello, good evening. Thank you so much for inviting me on behalf of Congressman Aguilar for this solidarity program. Thank you to the Islamic Center of the Inland Empire for putting this important event together. There's so much hatred in the world and violence, and it's just so important to have events like this, not exclusively in times of sorrow and in response to these tragedies, but it's important to do it after these types of attacks and hateful events take place. To come together as a community. There's a lot that divides us here in the United States and around the world, but we all know here in this room that there's a lot more that unites us, and it's so important to come together in the face of tragedy, in the face of hatred, come together, as a community, join together in love and compassion and kindness, and just to remind ourselves and the community around us that there's more that unites us than that divides us, and it's important to focus on our similarities and rather than our differences. Obviously, Congressman Aguilar was not able to be here this evening, but just please know that, like you, his voice is among many who constantly stands up and speaks up against and speaks out against the hatred and intolerance here in our country and around the world. So thank you again for having me. Thank you so much for putting this event together, and I hope the next time we come together, it'll be under better circumstances, and just to continue celebrating our unity and love for one another. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Boris, for those words. Next, I'm going to have Dr. Ahmed Sobo. He's the chairman of the Shura Council of Southern California. And Dr. Sobo actually was in Christchurch. He just came back recently after the tragedy. He had gone there with a number of other people from the LA area. A few other imams had gone down there to provide counseling and to provide support for the community there. So I think he's going to share a few of his experiences there from his visit. Inshallah.
Good evening. Assalamu alaikum. My dear respected brothers and sisters, ladies and gentlemen, guests of honor, thank you very much for being here. It actually means a lot to our community that you took time out of your busy schedules, Friday evening, family time. You might have the option of going to the movies tonight or go walk in Victoria Gardens, but you chose actually to come and sit down in a rectangular hall to listen about something happen on the other side of the globe. That's a very honorable decision to make, to be here. Thank you very much for your time, and thank you for those who spoke before me. I was really touched and moved by each one of them. Pastor Stephanie, thank you very much for being here. It means a lot, everything that you said. It means a lot that you sat down with this young girl to learn how to put the hijab on, and you look beautiful in it. So thank you very much. And thank you for the board of the Islamic Center of Inland Empire for holding this event that actually is also very, very beautiful and very kind of you to do something like this. It's very, very difficult to give a talk about something like this. For those who know me, I'm a regular speaker here, right? And I can talk for hours, and I can sit down, and you just give me a topic, and I'll talk, no problem. But to talk about something like this, it's not easy. It's painful. It brings emotions and feelings and pain. Last or 2 weeks ago, when it happened, I knew about it Thursday night, but I did not really. I thought just another killing. It happens a lot. We hear a lot of news about Muslims being killed, people walking to a mosque and shooting. It's not uncommon. We hear it all the time. But then Friday morning, I realized that actually it was taped. The guy had a camera on his head or weapon, and he actually recorded every single victim of his. How he shot them, how he killed them, how the gentleman told him, "Hello, brother," and he sent back his bullet in his head. How he drove over one of the victims after she did not die with the gun. So it was a very, very impactful story to hear about. So on my way the next day to give the sermon on Friday in one of the mosques in Orange County, I did not know what to say. It was like I could not imagine or fathom the feeling of the wife who said goodbye to her husband before Jum'ah prayer, but he never came back. I could not imagine the feeling of a son who lost his father or mother at that tragedy. I could not imagine the feelings of a father who lost his 3-year-old son while his son was in his hands and he was shot while he was holding him. All these emotions and feelings were in my mind. I could not put words together to give a talk or a sermon. I went and just said whatever I could. And then I realized that, you know what, there is something else I can do. I got a call from one of my fellow imams in Orange County, and he said, "Are you up for a trip to Christchurch, to New Zealand? We'll leave tonight." I said, "Are you for real?" He said, "Yes." He said, "Let me find out." First, I have to call my wife and ask her, right? Because I promised her after the week before, we had a big banquet, and I said, after the banquet over, we will sit down and spend time as a family. And then the next day I call her and tell her, "Do you mind if I go to New Zealand?" And she said, "It's a good cause, go for it." So I booked a ticket an hour later on my way to the airport. And what I would like to do right now is just tell you some of the things that happened in this trip, some of the things that we learned. A lot of good things, a lot of positive things. Yes, there are sad moments and sad stories, but there's also some goodness that came out of it. You being here tonight is one of these good things that happened out of this story. What's amazing about the people of New Zealand and Christchurch specifically, they're such kind people, such nice people. We booked our flights with Air New Zealand. The moment we arrived at the counter at LAX, they asked us, "You're going for 2 days only?" They said, "Yes." Like, why? It's like, "You know what, we're going to attend the funeral of those people who died in the terror attack." Immediately, the station manager came, gave us red carpet treatment, upgraded our tickets, and took us all the way with an escort to the plane and called someone on the other side to receive us at the plane and made sure that we are being greeted by every single personnel who works for the airlines. Such a nice people. That's a reflection of the people of New Zealand. When you see the Prime Minister doing what she's done, amazing, right? But that's because her people are like this. When you see Pastor Stephanie's here, because her congregation are like this. When you see leaders acting in such a way, that's a reflection of the people of her constituency. So that by itself was a good start. So our plan was to go meet as many family members as possible, learn, pray the funeral prayers, because it was supposed to happen a few days after we, like the same day we arrived, which is supposed to start. So that was our plan. So from the airport, we went directly to the funeral home. So try to imagine the people who are doing the preparation of the bodies. In our Islamic tradition, we wash the dead bodies. We prepare them, we put some scents on them, we wrap them with a white piece of cloth, and then we take them to the cemetery to be prayed on and then buried. So try to imagine talking to the people who are washing the bodies, telling you the horrible things I've seen. how the bodies are mutilated. Some bodies without a face. Some bodies with big holes in the middle of the body. Some bodies are so tiny, 3-year-old kids. So that was the first shock for us. And then going to the cemetery after that and seeing the first funeral prayer that we prayed on the little boy. His name is Mu'ad, 3-year-old kid, originally from Somalia. And his father is there, seeing him being buried. Very devastating. You'll see during the funeral prayers many people on wheelchairs. Who are those? Those are the survivors. As many people were killed, there are more people who were injured and survived. And they are there attending the funerals of their family members, their friends, their spouses, and they're crying, seeing their beloved ones being put to rest forever. We attended several funerals. By the evening, we said, let's go to the hospital. We went and start meeting people who are in the hospital who survived the shooting. And we start hearing firsthand witness stories about what happened in that terror, telling us that right when the imam started his sermon, some noise of shooting started happening. The first minute of the sermon started, people start being shot. The first person who was shot was the elderly Afghani brother, Haji Dawood Nabi, who when he saw the man walking in, he told him, hello, brother. And he exchanged that with a shot. And then he walked in and started shooting people. He killed 42 people in that mosque. Some people start running out of the glass windows like this, but because they broke the glass and went out, half of their bodies got stuck inside the mosque, and the other half is outside. So they got the bullets in their legs and their feet. They survived, but they're telling us what they saw. We saw this mother, American woman whose husband and 2-year-old boy were in the mosque. And her boy was its first or second time to go to a mosque. The kid got a shot in his thigh, and the husband got shots in the lower part of his body, but they survived. But guess what? Now every time that little 2-year-old boy hears the azan, he starts panicking and crying so loud because it brings back the memories to him. It is so sad. And then we try to go to the people's houses of those who lost beloved ones. I went personally to the house of Haj Nabi, the Hello Brother hero, and sat down with his children, and sat down with his family and his wife, and gave them the condolence prayers from the community of Southern California. And we spent a few hours doing that between homes and hospitals, learning about people, getting stories. And then went home and rested after a very, very busy day. The next day in the morning, I personally, before I left, I called the mayor of Los Angeles. I said, I'm going to Christ Church tomorrow or tonight. Would you like to do anything about it? Immediately, they drafted a letter to the community of Christ Church, to the mayor of Christ Church, and they said, please hand it to them on behalf of the office of Los Angeles mayor. And I did. The next day, they called the consulate here. They arranged a meeting. I went to meet the mayor in Christ Church with her chief of staff and deputy mayor, gave them the letter from the community, from the Muslim community of Southern California, from the community of Southern California and Los Angeles, and they were very, very appreciative for that. And then we went to the prayer. Now try to imagine the imam who's giving the prayer. How is his feelings? Right? He saw everything happening in front of him. Because when the person walked from there and starts shooting right and left, the imam is sitting there, and luckily he was not shot, but he's seen his community member falling one after the other. And he's seen exactly the details. He was in a shock. Now try to imagine you as a speaker or as a pastor or as an imam standing in front of thousands of people on Friday, because it was an open prayer in the park where people came from all over. The prime minister was there. The mayor was there. It was aired throughout the whole globe. Everyone saw it. Now, I can proudly say that we had something to help with preparing the sermon for him, because he was not putting his minds together. So he gave a beautiful sermon that was very, very powerful and uniting to the community over there. After that, we went back to the cemetery and did the major funeral prayer of 27 bodies altogether. And again, meeting the family members, seeing the people on wheelchair, going and sitting down with them, giving hugs and shake hands. Amazingly, many of the youth who happened to knew us because they saw our videos online and our YouTube lectures and all that, they were so happy to see us. They felt so empowered, like, oh, you came all the way from America just to be with us. We don't have any relatives there. That was very empowering to see. We saw the gang members. The gang members in Christchurch, yeah, even though it's a very nice and pleasant city, they still have gangs. I don't know how that. And their gangs, some of them are on bikes, some of them are actual gangs. The main two gangs in Christchurch who do not talk to each other at all, they got together at the funeral, put their hands together and said, no one will harm you again when we are in town. That was so beautiful. One of the young gang members, maybe 20-some Caucasian gentlemen, they call them Kiwi there, I don't know if you know that. They know Kiwis. He came and his eyes are so red, full of tears, crying. And he gave me a big hug. He said, you came from America? I feel for you. And he said, look. And he pulled his lower edge, the pants, and he showed me on his thigh a huge tattoo of a woman with a hijab and tears coming out from her eyes. He said, I just got it 2 days ago. And he's so proud of his new tattoo on his way of showing support to the Muslim community. And on top of it, it says, they are us. It was an incident that brought everyone together. Government, lay people, clergy, Muslims, Christians, Jews, everybody, Maoris, which are the indigenous people of the land, the rest of the community. It was such a beautiful, unifying scene that you see. And when that Hello Brother gentleman's funeral came, there were like 10 bikes going around his, the car that takes his body. And they're doing all these kind loud noises with their bikes in the cemetery. And then they got out of their bikes and started dancing the local dance. I don't know if you saw it on YouTube or on TV, and they're out of showing respect. It was definitely something good that we also noticed out of this. Then we went on and we went again and start seeing other injured people and other family members. And we got to learn that the criminal and the terrorist, who is not from that town, he came from outside, spent the last 2 years in that town. It looks like he was planning for it. And when he went to the first mosque and he emptied his magazine, went back to the car, filled it up again, and went in and started shooting again. And then he decided to walk out, shooting people on the street who were crossing the street, coming to the mosque, or running away from it. Some couple, a father and son who came late, and they were coming, they don't know what's going on. And when they saw him, the son ran away, and the father could not run because he's older. He shot him. And when he fell, he started crawling and said, help. He shot him again. And then he got in his car and he went to the second mosque. By the time he got to the second mosque, they were done with their prayer, almost finishing the last part of the prayer. He walked in and started shooting. And then a hero, his name is Abdulaziz, comes in and he jumps on him with a credit card machine and he hits him and takes his gun from him. Otherwise, he would have finished the rest of the 100 people who were praying just sitting down there with their backs to him. Like we were praying right now, and that's how he started shooting them. And then he ran away without his gun, and that's how the police caught him outside. The scary thing is that they found on his GPS in the car, his next destination was the Islamic daycare. There are 3 buildings that have Muslims in Christchurch. One of them was two of them the mosques, Masjid An-Nur and Loomsdale, and the daycare. And he was going there. Actually, when he put this video live on Facebook, because this is so sick, that he taped it and he put it live on Facebook. One of the first comments said, oh, you should have gone there to the daycare. It would have been easier target. So there is evil outside. But luckily, love and peaceful people are much more. The amount of love we saw. On Friday, everyone was wearing the hijab in the streets, by the way. And everyone sees us, greets us, and says, our hearts with you. It was such a beautiful scene to see everyone rejecting hate, rejecting terrorism, rejecting crimes like this, because no one deserves to be treated that way. One of the amazing things that we saw in some of the families, like we went to the household of Atta. Atta is a young man who was the goalie of the national soccer team of New Zealand. He was very well respected and loved by his community, by his peers, by his co-workers. Everyone loved him. And his father was injured, and his father was seeing him being buried. Then we went to his house to meet the rest of the family, his father, his mother, his sisters, his uncles. And it was amazing to see how these people taught us strength. And they said, listen, he's a shaheed. He's in good place. It's our job right now, and that's the mother saying that. It's our job right now to build the future, to build our community, to build a city on love and reject all kinds of hate. A mother who lost her son in that tragic accident or attack, and now she thinks how to build the future. That tells you a lot. So, you know, that was a lesson for us. Don't lose hope. Just move forward and see how can you make the future better. I was supposed personally to stay Saturday the full day, but then I got a call on Friday evening telling me we would like you to come back sooner because one of the presidential candidates would like to meet with the Muslim community and hear what happened in New Zealand. So I ended up getting my flight earlier, and I arrived here Saturday morning. So these were some of the things that I remember that I've seen, a lot of good things that I've seen, a lot of positive things that could come out. My request to everyone here is number one, if God forbid this happens again to anybody, regardless of their faith, we all, the same way we gathered here, should be there, right? Especially my fellow Muslims. Since 9/11, we've been so cautious or sensitive or afraid to go give condolences to people of faith when the attacker happened to be Muslim, because we don't want to associate ourselves with them, right? When Pastor Stephen is here talking, no one thought that the criminal has anything to do with her, right? Even though he claims to follow the same religion. We as Muslims always been shy of going to other religions when this happens because we don't want to associate, we don't want to apologize, it's not our fault. Well, guess what? We need to change that. If God forbid something happened to the Sikh community tomorrow, we should be the first one on the doors of their temple. If God forbid happened to the Jewish community, we should be the first one on their temple, or the Christian community. We should be there with the flowers, with the cards from the Dollar Tree, with all kind of stuff. We should try our best to be there, show our presence, because it means a lot. I felt it. I felt it when the others are visiting our mosques and they're giving us their love and condolences and hugs. So let's do the same. Make sure that we do the same. That's number one. Number two, please, please do not ask this question. Oh, there's so many people getting killed around the world. Why New Zealand? You heard that question? Why only 50? You know, there's hundreds of people are being dying in somewhere else, right? Why are we all of them should be caring for regardless. It just happened that this was recorded. It's a different level of evil, different level of wrong. It took us to the next level of what the sick minds can do. So that's why we are making a big deal about it. It's not a joke. I heard some people say, oh, it's fake. Nothing is real. This is all, you know, the conspiracy theorists. Please don't be among those. Don't say September 11th was fake. Don't say these things are fake. I'm there in front of the funeral and the dead body in front of me, and someone calls me, he's like, please verify it's real. Like, for real? I can see them right here. It's like, I think the body is a dummy. It's like, what are you talking about? There are families who are crying here. So don't get into this. Anyone who plays, shut them up right away. Tell them there are real people who are suffering. They don't need your, either be quiet or do some prayers. So that's another thing. Number four, we should all get together quite often. Not only when tragedies happens, right? Let's revive the Ramadan dinners. Not only to speak, but to socialize. Right? When you see someone in the supermarket that belongs to the other place, please say hi. Say salam, say shalom. Whatever it is, the word that you can say that makes them break the ice. Pay for their grocery if you can, maybe. Whatever it is you can do. Whatever you can to break the ice, it makes a difference. Our community, as Muslim community, we have been living under this threat, with this fear for a long time. We don't deserve that. As you notice, we're nice people. We're your doctors, we're your engineers, we're your cab drivers, your gas stations attendants. We're everywhere. And we love you as well. So when you see a sister or a lady wearing the hijab, go and talk to her. That's a great example. I'm very happy to know that your congregation is led by someone like you. Such a beautiful thing to do and to learn and to share and to teach others. But each one of us should do that, even our Muslim community. Be open, go out and talk and build relationships as much as possible. My masjid in Chino, my mosque in Chino, every Ramadan, we invite people to our mosque, like your masjid, like everyone else. But we also do something else in December. We go to their church for their Christmas dinner that they invite us for. They don't do it on Christmas Day, but they do it the week before. But we go, and we share, and we ask questions, and they ask questions, and we exchange. We've been doing this for 7 to 8 years. The friendships and the things that we built over the 7 years made a huge difference. I remember the first day that church visited our mosque. They were scared. They didn't know, they're not sure what's going on. After several years, they are the first ones who defend us to say, no, these are the good guys. These are good guys. So this is something that I would like you to keep in mind. And finally, be hopeful. Don't lose hope. Don't lose hope. The fact that you are here tonight tells us that the humanity is still in good shape. The fact that we have people here tonight tells us that we as a human family still love each other, belong to each other. We are on one camp. Don't let the evil people divide us. All right? The other camp are those bad guys. And luckily, they are the minority. They are the fringe. They don't represent. The terrorist of Christchurch does not represent Christianity. Does not represent a race. He represents evil. And evil could be from any religion. Him and the guy of San Bernardino in the same camp. We are on the other camp. Keep that in mind and make sure that you do not lose hope. When you talk to your children, talk to them with hope. Make sure that you research and read what would be the best thing to tell our children about these things, because it's definitely impacting them much more than we can imagine. I had so many youth who cried when they saw that video. They could not believe that someone could do something like this. So the program was going great on time until I start speaking, but I will stop right here. If you have any questions, if you have anything, Masood, how do you like to handle this? If you have anything that you want to talk, ask, you can do it now or afterwards. I'll be more than happy to answer questions about my trip or about the Muslim community in general in Southern California. For those who don't know, the Islamic Shura Council is the umbrella organization for all the mosques in Southern California. We represent about 600,000-700,000 Muslims, and we have about 80 Islamic center and organization under our umbrella. This mosque is one of them. So I'll be more than happy to answer any of your questions or make any comments. Yes?
Hi. My name is Joel Feinstein.
Oh.
I'm Jewish, and I come from the congregation Emmanuel in Renton.
So nice meeting you.
My curiosity is about the shooter. What do you, from your perspective, what do you want to see happen to him?
What happened to him?
And what would you like, what do you deserve?
Not to be talked about. I think he deserves not to be mentioned. And the Prime Minister of New Zealand did amazing. She said, I'm not going to mention his name. He's faceless. We're not going to give him the heroism. Because, by the way, after his massacre and terror actions, 150 people changed their profile picture to his picture on video games. On Fortnite and Call of Duty. I don't know if you know these games, but all your children play them, whether you know it or not. But your kids play these games. 150 members changed their profile picture to his picture. Luckily, immediately Sony and PlayStation, Nintendo, they immediately canceled their accounts. So, but we should not let that person get the hero treatment, because that's what he wants. He wants attention. What punishment should be? I don't know. I mean, I'm not the judge. I'm not the It's up the legal system, the country there. We don't have that authority over him. Some of the victims already forgave him, like their families. Some of the injured already forgave him. We as Muslims and Jews and Christians, we believe in something called the Day of Judgment, right? We believe that there's a time that we'll stand before God, and God will judge us based on what we've done. I think that's how we as Muslims believe. I'm sure many of my fellow faithful believe in that as well. So I think that's a tough question. I mean, I can answer emotionally, but I don't want to do that. Any other questions? Yes?
I just would like to make a statement that I feel very honored being here tonight and partaking in all of this. And I work at Los Osos High School, so I would just like to say that I hope that I am a reflection to the students there of what a kind person and somebody who loves their neighbor regardless, that I am a good reflection, and that I take with me on my daily walk at work that unity is the key.
Thank you for that. We're lucky to have you as caretaker of our children, and students do definitely learn a lot from their teacher. I learned a lot from my teachers. I mean, every one of my teachers I was growing up has some impact in my personality for sure. Many of them, I wish I can find them and tell them thank you. And I don't know how to. I mean, it's been many, many years ago in different cities, different part of the world. But do not underestimate your power. And as the father of Spider-Man said, with great powers comes great responsibilities. Any other? Over there. Go ahead. Hold on. Yeah, after the, go ahead. Oh, okay, well. Okay, so, go ahead. One more time. The topic of this incident? Well, definitely you should, first of all, talk about, very good question. What's your name, buddy? Yusuf, very good question. And what grade are you in? Sixth, all right. So I assume you're 11, 10 years old? 11, good. So Yusuf, if you talk to anyone, regardless of Muslims or non-Muslims, just let them know that this is the result of hate. This is the result when people do not open their hearts to love the others and think bad of others because maybe something they saw on TV or something they saw online. That's the result of hate. That's what happens. And you can tell them about the tragic impact on the families of those people. These were fathers who had children who may be 10 or 11 years old and never came back to their families. There are mothers. They were grandparents, they were children. So you share some of these things, and regardless what's their faith. I mean, we should have all act the same, regardless if it happened in a mosque or a church or a temple or a synagogue. That's how our feelings are, not just because they're Muslims, but the way it was done, it's horrible, and we all reject it. So these are some of the things that you can say. A lot of young people, I don't suggest that you watch the video or you let anyone watch it. If someone forwarded it to you, cancel it, don't watch it, because it's traumatizing. And don't let any of your friends watch it. Tell them that as well, okay? But maybe we can talk after the event if you have any further questions about that. By the way, one of the older lady, her name is Linda Armstrong, and she's so beautiful and powerful. She was like 60-some years old, and she was praying in the mosque at that time. And then when she saw this happen, she went to him and said, "Why are you doing this?" And he shot her right there and then. She's one of the martyrs that happened there. Everyone loved her and everyone talked about her. We heard her stories over and over in that place. Yeah.
Thank you very much. My name is Kevin. as Pastor Stephanie said, growing up, she had no real exposure to the Muslim community, and I was the same way growing up. My only exposure, quite honestly, was 9/11, which was terrible. Several years ago, my cousin, she lived in Kuwait. She had married a gentleman there, and she was here visiting with her husband, and she told him, okay, you guys can go outside and talk. Don't talk religion. So, of course, we spent the next 2 hours talking about religion. But at the end of our conversation, as it was time for us to leave, he and I embraced the wall, that wall. One brick had fallen.
Nice.
Many bricks had fallen. And I thank you for even knocking down that wall even more.
Thank you, thank you.
And I thank everyone here for that.
It needs both sides.
And I just thank you and say hello, brother, to everyone here.
Oh, that's beautiful. Hello, brother. So, unless you have, yeah, the wall cannot be destroyed from one side only. It has to be both sides, and sometimes we get tired or lazy or discouraged by some voices in our side telling us, "Oh, you don't need that. Don't listen. Just keep going." Yeah.
Assalamu alaikum, everybody. My name is Oshun Akbar, and I'm pretty new to Islam. And I was brought here because of the teachings of Malcolm X, who taught justice by any means necessary. And I love that Islam is so for peace, but I'm confused at where the line is drawn for us to become more protected as a community. Seeing as there are systems put in play like white supremacists who are actively seeking to harm us.
So peace definitely doesn't mean weakness. No, it doesn't mean that. Peace means that you look for peace. You try to achieve peace, not necessarily justice, peace. Peace is a higher value than justice, because sometimes forgiveness is not justice, right? But peace is what we're looking for. That's what Muslims are. So as Muslim community in Southern California, for example, we do have, for example, an open forum on this Sunday, town hall meeting with the leaders of the Islamic centers throughout Southern California, with community leaders, with organizations, and it's open to the public. And we do have experts, security experts, media relationship experts, mental therapist experts, and we will be talking to our community how to protect our community from a physical point of view, emotional point of view, spiritual point of view. We don't believe that we have to react violently to stuff. That's not the right answer, because violence will create more violence, right? But we definitely doesn't mean that we just sit down and do nothing to protect our communities, right?
That's
we have.
concern,
No. I mean, the famous story about a man who walked into the mosque and left his camel outside without tying it. And when the Prophet asked inside, who owns that camel? It's wandering around the streets. He said, it's me. He's like, why didn't you tie it? He said, I trust God. He said, no, that's not the right way. Tie it, then trust God, right? That's a very famous statement in Islam, right? So we do our part. We do protect our community with the measures that does not create panic, because we don't want to have a tank outside with 7 armed guards outside to create fear in our community. You also have to care for that as well.
Okay.
So there are methods. So if you're more than welcome to come. It's in Anaheim at 9 a.m. on Sunday morning.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Yeah, my name is Danny Langston and I want to thank you for
With who?
Office of Congresswoman Torres.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, thank you for inviting us. Last Friday, the Congresswoman,
we had an interfaith at the Chino Valley Islamic Mosque, and we thank you for letting us, you guys hosting that. One of the things that came out of that roundtable, though, what was the idea, and you kind of stated it, is making sure that Muslim people are part of the community, right? So we're not getting together just at these types of events, but also we're coming together on issues like on housing affordability, on issues of homelessness, and you know, religious communities are not the only one under attack currently. You know, ever since I guess the beginning of 2017, there's been a lot of other communities under attack, such as immigrant communities as well. So being able to come together and really talk about those issues, and making sure that we understand each other, and I think that's a really good start to really making sure that we all understand each other. Somebody had mentioned they didn't meet anybody that was a Muslim until they were a lot older. I think this is maybe a way to do that, right? Making sure that we incorporate people in larger community issues as well. So the Congresswoman is more than happy to help with that as well. And we look forward to working with you, and thank you for hosting tonight.
Thank you very much. Yes, indeed, Congresswoman Torres did hold a roundtable discussion last Friday, and she invited, and she's the one who reached out to us and said, I want to meet with you guys and start talking about things that matters to the community, and we really appreciate that. We invite all elected officials, even the president, to come and sit down with us and hear what we have to say. We have a lot of things to say, so thank you very much.
Good evening. I want to just be very brief, but I want to add my thank you for hosting this event. I'm from the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and I think that the thing that gives me so much hope here is the fact that we have lots of different faiths coming together, and I really think that that is what's going to make us win over the evil that exists in the world.
Absolutely.
And I just really appreciate it. My heart is very full from the standpoint of the sadness that I had when we experienced this tragedy. But I think things like this put us on the right path.
Absolutely, and definitely your church is on the forefront of building bridges, so we really thank you for that. We have a lot of partnership with the Church of Jesus Christ Latter-day Saints, and we received a lot of cards and flowers from them in the past several weeks, so we really thank you for that and extend our appreciation and gratitude to your community as well. Yes.
Hi, again. In my church community, we're trying to harness the power of social media. Mm-hmm. And as we can see with this shooter who put this horrific act on social media, it is a platform that doesn't have a whole lot of gatekeepers. And that's both very dangerous and could be very much used for good. Absolutely. As well. And so we tend to think of this as like when the culture changed when the printing press was invented. And when that happened, that shift changed everything. The Industrial Revolution changed everything. The Enlightenment changed everything. So right now with social media, we're in that time right now where everything is changing. And it's not going back, and we can't unlearn, this power of social media platforms. And in 10 years, we'll just be behind the 8 ball if we don't get on top of it now. Absolutely. That's how we feel. So is your council utilizing and harnessing any of these platforms of social media in order to then break down these walls and educate the public? Because I know in my congregation, we're a fairly insulated group unless we get outside. We're all very similar to one another. And we hear that often in our different congregations, we're the most racially segregated part of society, much more so than in the university or in the medical profession or law or other professions. Here in churches and mosques and temples, we're very, very homogenized. So how are you using social media, or are you using social media to try to get outside of those walls to other people to learn? Absolutely.
Very, very brilliant point. That's a very good point that we all should be paying attention to. So our council and all the mosques, most of the major mosques in Southern California have a very good presence online and very good active social media accounts. And we try to do a few things with that. Number one is direct the conversation in a positive way, and be the voice of the community through social media. So we have professionals who are actually doing the work. We pay them money so they can put the right posts and the right language and the proper thing. So that's something we do, and we train and advise our members how to handle that. But the problem with social media is, as much as you try to do it in a professional way, you still need the people. You need the people to, so for example, if you receive a hateful message or a hateful video on your WhatsApp or your Facebook, make sure you stop it right there and then. Don't let it go. I know many of you received a letter that says, look, Muslims are trying to spread Sharia in America. You know, send back saying, no, that's nonsense. All right? That's absolutely ridiculous. And please don't forward me these messages again. They're not welcome. One time you do that to one person, you will stop a lot of harm. But if you forward it to someone else, just because you're, you know, curious, or you want to sound that you know something that they don't know, that's when hate is spreading. And we say that to everybody. If you receive a negative message, do not let it go after you. Stop it. Send a message back to the person who sends it. If you see something on Facebook that's hateful, that's not right, that's racist, complain. You can do that. You can send a message to Facebook. We were able to call Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, right after the video was on it, and they put it down because we called them, right? Then Friday morning, we called for emergency phone conference call. We had 200 people on the call, and we right away talked about social media. We spoke also the same, an hour later, we spoke to the mayor office, and we had so many people, law enforcement, experts from different backgrounds. Also, we spoke about that as well. So, but unfortunately, without your help, social media can cause a lot of damage. So use it. Each one of us do your role to do the good. So thank you. That's a good point. Oh, look who's here. My beloved Pastor Tom, how are you?
I just want to say thank you for you.
Thank you very much.
We've been brothers for probably 15 years. I'm Tom Johnson from Claremont School of Theology. I've been here, I can't tell you how many times I've been here, and this is just like a home to me. And at the same time, I can't tell you enough. I'm going to call you Ahmed.
Absolutely.
I know we call each other doctor all the time to each other, but you just inspire me over and over again, and you pour out your heart. And I just hope and pray you take time with your kids.
I will. I promise. Spring break is next week.
Okay, good.
We'll give a whole full day.
That's one thing I want to say as another one. Just real quickly, I was in Australia same time as this happened.
Oh.
I don't know if you knew that or not, but I was traveling, and I had dinner with someone. And as I travel, many times, people, the first thing they ask me, and I probably don't mean to get political, but they ask me, what do I feel about Trump? And I try hard, in some ways, to not say, exactly all that I feel. But this fellow immediately, and I explained one of the reasons I really have concern is because what I call the Muslim ban, where it was very much discriminatory according to faith. And he immediately said to me, and he was from New Zealand, he said, I think all Muslims are terrorists, and I can't thank God enough for Trump. And I immediately told him, if you look back in the last 2 years, most of these doing terrorists look like me. They're white men, and they claim to be Christian. And that's the truth. That's the truth. Well, our dinner didn't go too good after that.
Can you imagine?
But the next day is when this incident happened, this tragedy happened.
Oh, my goodness.
And by God's 2 days, I had to happen to have dinner with him again. And he invited me to come to have dinner because he wanted to talk more about this. He was shattered.
Of course.
He really deeply realized both how wrong he was, but also how misguided he had become. And not to say he was going to change completely right then and there, but I guess just the point I share is as you have inspired me, and I know I've helped to inspire you
many times,
to be able to speak out, to be able to say the truth.
Thank you.
To be able to indeed, and sometimes confront uncomfortable situations, and to be able to know that this is how we are united.
Absolutely.
So I just want to share that.
Thank you very much. Bye. Good.
So I think we have the prayer coming up for Isha prayer.
Right.
So I think
let me close.
Yeah, let me close.
Oh.
Maybe one more question.
Oh. Let me just say a few things. So one of the, I told you earlier that I brought my trip a day earlier so I can meet one of the presidential candidates. Not that I endorse anybody, but we met with Bernie Sanders. And 2 points that I mentioned is, if you happen to become the president, please be aware that your words and actions influence people throughout the whole world. And this terrorist mentioned clearly that it was inspired by, unfortunately, the word of our president. So that's a reality. I don't please, if you become a president, make sure that you realize that every single thing you say, there are people there who might act upon it. And number two, our decisions in the White House, they go beyond the boundaries of the United States. And I ended it with a joke, and I said, if it's up to me, I'll invite the whole world to vote through the American presidential elections, because it does affect everybody. And finally, for any of you who is part of a church who never had a Muslim visit your church, please let us know. We do have presentations, we do have talks, we do have visits that we come, and we answer all your questions. Any question that you have, we take it with open heart. We don't get offended. The amounts of questions that I received at churches, you might think that they're offensive. They're not. I'm glad they asked me those questions. So it's an open invitation to your church to invite us. We'll come. We'll talk. We'll answer questions. We will tell you that we respect you as a Christian, and we want you to love your faith and be strong with it. But we want you to understand what we believe in, so you know not to wrongly judge us or have misinformation about us. One more? Who was it? She's. Oh.
No, not a question. Just. Assalamu alaikum. Good evening, everybody. I wouldn't talk here, but what I heard, I will take just some 3-4 minutes to talk, and at the end you will judge it. Important that I should say this. First of all, mashallah, there are a lot of doctors, engineers sitting in here, and how I dare to talk in here. But I would say that I'm from Afghanistan too, by the way, but Muhammad Nabi, that was the founder of the Anur Masjid, that he got killed in there. Speaking of liking and loving each other, speaking of raising awareness, as the mayor said, speaking of Russia, as the rabbi said, speaking of educating ourselves, as Mayor Stephanie said, and some of the points that Dr. Soba said, I explained enough, so I wouldn't touch. But speaking of liking, loving each other, I was the second grade of medical school that I was hired by an ophthalmologist in Afghanistan, in Kabul, to work with him as a part-time medical recorder. 1978, which was the first end of the first year of Russian who had invaded Afghanistan, I went as a translator with him to a province, to a city near border of Iran, which is called Herat. At that time, I was 40 days only there. At that time, uprising, again, that was the year of Russian invasion of Afghanistan, 1978. At that time, while I was in that city, first time uprising started against Russian invasion in Afghanistan. And then to punish that uprising, the government, which most of them were Russian soldiers, were bombarding the city for 3 days. In 3 days, 25,000 people were killed in there. Get how many people got injured. this is the important thing that I said. We should like each other, no matter what religion we have, what belief we have as a human being. The second day of that uprising, 8 airplanes were dropping bombs, and there were shells from around the mountains, and the city was quiet. I was with 10 American and European nurses and doctors. I was living like 3 kilometers away from them. They were all living in one house. And the second day, I walked under those shells to their house. I knocked at their door. They were so scared that maybe the freedom fighters, because the freedom fighters were illiterated, they cannot read and write. They would have, they would have looked at their hair and eyes, I'm sorry, and they would have, God forbid, killed him. So when I knocked at their door, they were scared. They opened the door. They said, "My name is Muhammad Riazah." They said, "Muhammad, what are you doing in here?" In this binoculars in their hands, and they were watching the airplane dropping bombs. Under these shells, what do you do here? I said, "I came to like each other." I told them, "I came here that the freedom fighters should not touch you guys. They should not harm you guys." One of those doctors is still, he's like 84, 85 years, still alive in New Mexico. And I'm still in touch with him. So he said, I was 23 years old. He said, "You, with a bright future as a medical student, you put your life in danger to come to save us?" I said, "Yes." So he said, when I was going back to Kabul, he said, "I'll tell the administrator of the hospital to give you a bit more money to operate." I said, "Never tell him that." I really stopped him. I told him, "Don't give him to give more money or some reward to him." I didn't do that for reward. I did that as a humanity. That was about to liking each other. About the mayor that he said raising awareness, yes, we have to raise awareness about Muslims, the real Muslims, where are they going to the one, and the people who are somebody like we see Al-Qaeda and so forth. There are too much difference between the real Muslims that if the community knows.
Yeah.
It's second, one more minute probably about yes. About the rabbi that he said, she said Russia. So it's not the politics, anything. It's the thing that we should know whatever politics, whatever religion, whatever, we have to like each other. About the liking each other, raising awareness, as Mayor Stephanie said, this is important too. We should raise awareness that the community should know us. We should know it's our fault also that we have not introduced us more to the community. Raising awareness means that if our kids, our youth are coming out of this masjid and they see some cheerleaders with 10 clothes and short skirts, we tell our kids, don't discriminate them. If they say hi to you, you say more sincere hi to them. But we expect that we should raise awareness that when especially our sisters with the hijab, they are walking on the streets, they should get awareness to do not discriminate. Thank you so much.
So I think we have one more comment and then we'll wrap it up, inshallah.
Thank you. My name is Lisa Tunka Feinstein. I'm his better half. I'm Christian, and my husband is Jewish. I'm Indonesian. The biggest Muslim populated country in the world. 250 million that we know of population. And from my grandmother, great-grandmother, my parents, Christians, we're minority there. And when I came over here, I had such a beautiful country where we live in such harmony different religion. I have my friends in my vocal group, in my choir, who are Muslim, who would sing with us in the church on Christmas and in Easter, and help us put the Christmas tree, put the, for the celebration. And during Ramadan, I would fast with my friends. I didn't eat from sunrise to sundown, just to feel and respect them. But I know from my teacher, my ustad, that we don't have to do that. And my friends shouldn't expect that from us. I come from that kind of community. I was the minority in my class. From 50, 60 students, probably just 2 or 3 Christians. Most of the time, I was the only girl. And then I was the assistant of the ustad, because he would teach, and then after that, he would make notes on the chalk on the board, and then he made me do it. So I would do the Arabic and then all the notes and everything. And I love all his teachings, because we cannot leave the premises of the school. But for our report card, he has to have the report from our church or our parents. And then I was the assistant. My husband is kicking me. But I mean, I was the assistant for the absent, for the attendance for Salat, because we have the mosque and the premises. And everybody have to do on Friday from 7 to 10 is the religion, class. And I cannot leave, but I love it. I love all the teaching and that I learned. And then I would go to the mosque, and then I would, mark them, wudu, no wudu, and then sometimes I, would tease my friends, the guys, after they take their wudu, I would just touch them, like, go take another one. And, but anyway, and lately it's been kind of changing, and I talk with a lot of the imam and the ICIE that now also I would ask you to pray for my country. We're having our election in few days on the 17th of April. Here, I'm in the committee also for the election at the Indonesian consulate on the 13th. But hate is also, it's so evil that could just attack every human being, every person next to us, our brother and our sister, when actually the main command is La ilaha illallah. There's no God, other God than Allah and God in your heart. And we are the children of God. That's why you are my brother. You are my brother and you're my sister. I'm your sister.
Welcome.
And
Thank you very much.
Pray for each other too. And I would like to extend Inna lillahi wa inna lillahi rajiun. And is it okay if I do the A'udzu billahi minas syaitonir rajim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahirabbil alamin. Ar-Rahmanir-Rahim. Maliki yaumiddin. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. Ihdinas siratal mustaqim. Siratal ladzina an'amta 'alaihim. Ghairil maghdubi 'alaihim ولا الضالين.
Ameen. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, thank you all. I'd like to finish with a prayer. We ask God Almighty to heal our communities, to preserve our communities, to protect our places of worship, to protect our children, to protect our elderly. We ask you, God, to remove the hate out of the hearts of all people. We ask you to show them the light and to guide them to the right path. Oh God, anyone who's spreading hate, we ask you to change that hate in their hearts to love. Ameen. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, everybody, for coming. We hope to see you all again under better circumstances, as we've already discussed. There's food and refreshments in the multi-purpose room just outside to your right. So please, we welcome you to please join us. Thank you.
الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله
لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك استووا للصلاة straighten your lines close the gaps الله أكبر تبارك بسم الله الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم
مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. ولا تقولوا لمن يقتل في سبيل الله أموات بل أحياء ولكن لا تشعرون ولنبلونكم بشيء من الخوف والجوع ونقص من الأموال والأنفس والثمرات وبشر الصابرين الذين إذا أصابتهم مصيبة قالوا إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون أولئك عليهم صلوات من ربهم ورحمة وأولئك هم المفلحون أولئك هم المهتدون. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. وسارعوا إلى مغفرة من ربكم وجنة عرضها السماوات والأرض أعدت للمتقين الذين ينفقون في السراء والضراء والكاظمين الغيظ والعافين عن الناس والله يحب المحسنين والذين إذا فعلوا فاحشة أو ظلموا أنفسهم ذكروا الله فاستغفروا لذنوبهم ومن يغفر الذنوب إلا الله ولم يصروا على ما فعلوا وهم يعلمون. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. استغفر